is Michael Popak for the new Legal AF MTN YouTube channel. Just take a moment. It's the vote that really counts. Hit the subscribe button. Bring some friends and family, do the same thing. Help us build this pro-democracy channel with our bare hands. Speaking of bare hands, bare knuckle fighting, we got a winner in Georgia, Fulton County, and it's Judge McBurney. Judge McBurney, the dark horse, came in out of nowhere to win. What did he win? There's 2 cases in front of him in which he gets to oppose MAGA's attempts to delay the certification of the election to benefit Donald Trump. What else? We've got the state election board. We got 2 levels of election boards, and he's got a case involving each level. At the state election board level, we've got a Trump-dominated Georgia state election board. I call it the Trump election board, the TEB. It's got 3 members that are Trumpers, so Trumpers that Donald Trump called out their names during a rally a month ago or so in Georgia. And one wants a job in the Trump administration. That's how Trumper they are. And they decided to change the rules of the road, the rules of the game in the middle of the game, and wanted to impose 2 new rules. 2 new rules to allow local election officials and the state board, the county level and the state board level, to, what's the word for it? F with the results. To oppose, to say, I want to make a reasonable inquiry, and I'd like to make a reasonable request. So they set up 2 new rules in the last 60 days. A reasonable inquiry rule empowering any member of a county election board or a state election board to say, that seems like, I don't like that vote count for Kamala Harris. Let me make a reasonable inquiry into all the data behind it, please. And an examination rule, which is, now that I've made my inquiry, I'd like to examine it. Who's got time for this? Okay, the elections have been going on from time immemorial, and what you do is you vote, whether it's one of those big, giant metal machines with a curtain that I voted in when I first started, or an electronic optical reader or something like that. There is a tally at the end. I've been inside of precincts. I've been a poll watcher for one of the parties. I know how this works. You look at the bottom, there is a vote tally. It prints it out at every machine, and it tells you how much for Trump and how much for Harris. That's the way it works. And if there's any discrepancies about another pile of ballots that were provisional that got moved in or out of a certain other pile for counting, then you deal with it there. But there are date certain deadlines set by every state's law in order to have the count certified. You know that big fat certification on Jan 6th? That's the one in DC. But there's county and state level certifications along the way. And in Georgia, as in most states, within 7 days of the vote, there has to be an initial certification, and then a state certification of everything about a month later, and then Jan 6th happens. That's the way it is, because under our Constitution, states are allowed to run and are the ones that are allowed to run federal elections. Time, place, and manner, how the election is going to be conducted, what the ballot looks like, how the ballots are counted, what kind of machines are used, is there going to be hand counting, under what circumstances, what's the role of the election board, how do you certify, when do you certify? But it all has to map out with deadlines and timelines that deliver the certified results to the federal, the Senate for a count, and the president of the Senate, in this case Kamala Harris as the vice president, to certify the results. And that's all ministerial. And you can jump up and down with your hair on fire along the way if you're on the board of one of these counties or state boards. Oh, I don't like it. Oh, that number was wrong. Oh, the 7 was a 6. You know what? You can do whatever you want. But it has to be certified. You can abstain. You can go abstain yourself, as I like to say, and say, I'm not voting. But the majority of the county board or state board matters, and that's it. Now you may be asking, Popak, you just said the county board, the state board, the Trump election board is majority Trump. Then what? Well, if they don't certify with the guidance of this new case by Judge McBurney that says you have to certify, it's a ministerial act only, you don't have the right not to certify, then it'll sit there uncertified. And the Democrats will have to file a lawsuit, which could end up with Judge McBurney or the Georgia Supreme Court at the last minute, in an emergency short track situation over a matter of days, because you only have, a week or a month there to get it done. And then there'll be a judge's order up to the Georgia Supreme Court and over to the United States Supreme Court about whether Georgia needs to certify or not. They have to certify. So whether they're compelled to certify through what we call a writ of mandamus action, mandamus, a mandatory action to get an official to do something, or otherwise, they will certify. There will not be a situation where there will be no Georgia certification or any other MAGA-led state. But we might have to go through this rigmarole of a state process. Now, if you're the candidate like Trump and you don't like the election results and you have grounds to argue some sort of fraud, then you do an election contest. You file another lawsuit. The judges are always the last and final arbiter for this. So don't worry about, well, what if Georgia never certifies? There'll be a certification because the courts will order it one way or the other. And it will be whatever the vote total is. If it comes out, Kamala Harris is ahead by 5,000 votes, 15,000 votes, 100,000 votes, or whatever it's going to be. They're going to draw a line under it, and they're going to certify that number. And if you don't like that number, then Donald Trump can go file his contest and try to get a hand count and try to get a recount and try to argue dead people voted and illegal immigrants voted and whatever he wants to argue, which there's absolutely no proof. So you got that going on. On the McBurney decision, he had two cases in front of him. They're joined together. They're consolidated, is the phrase we use in the law. And he ruled on one part of it. One part of it is that at the county level, at the superintendent of elections, which is a county level position, you must certify. It is a ministerial act only. You must certify. Even if you use reasonable inquiry or examination rule given to you by the state Trump board, you still have to certify on time. If you don't like it, you can abstain, but you got to certify. And then he's going to rule in a subsequent ruling that's coming up about whether the state election board could even pass those new rules. I think he's going to find, frankly, that they could pass those new rules. That the reasonable inquiry and examination rule, even though late in the game, are the rules of the game, because that's what the state election board is allowed to do under the state statute and code. But now he's going to say, but you can't F with it down below. So people like Julie Adams, who is like one of the lone MAGA on the Fulton County, which is Atlanta, Georgia County Board. She's like, well, I'm going to use a reasonable inquiry and examination rule from the state board to screw around with things. We're not going to certify. And the judge says, no, you are. Or you're going to get outvoted, or we're going to be back here in court and I'm going to certify it and force you to certify it. But that's how that works. So that's a good result. It's at least one judge standing up to MAGA in advance of the election and really standing up for Americans' rights. Everything we're talking about, these are all assaults and affronts on Americans. Everything Donald Trump is doing, another way to look at it, the only way to look at it, whether he's attacking Black and brown people, he's attacking immigrants, he's attacking people here on lawful status, he's attacking Americans. He's attacking Americans. The crimes that he committed are crimes against Americans. This disenfranchisement, ripping away your right to vote, suppressing your right to vote through registration, through the certification process or whatever, it's crimes against Americans. And how could he ever win an election to be returned to the White House when his primary focus is crimes against Americans? He's even suggested, and I just did a hot take on this, turning around the turrets of tanks by the U.S. military and using them on American people and putting Americans in internment camps under various powers that go back to the Civil War. These are crimes and affronts against Americans. We're going to report it right here on Legal AF MTN. We got to 206,000 subscribers in 27 days. Not because of me. I mean, I'm doing my part. I'm curating the channel. I'm bringing on some amazing content, not just my own. I'm so modest today, but also of great contributors like Court Accountability, who's going to be here regularly 4 or 5 times a week. A new show called Unprecedented, at the intersection of law and politics in the U.S. Supreme Court, that I'm doing with Dina Dahl. And Karen Friedman Ignifilo is over here, and Dina Dahl is here, and Court Accountability, and Michael Popok. Everybody's here. All the cool kids are here. Join us. Legal AF MTN. So until my next hot take right here, my next podcast for Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.